Well, joining us right now live via Zoom is director of this incredible film, Tod Polson. Todd, thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah.
Of course. Well, I first wanted to ask you about your extensive career, and you've been nominated for multiple awards. What drew you to this career path?
Well, I couldn't do anything else. I grew up on a ranch in Wyoming, and much to the chagrin of my father, I spent most of my time drawing and sketching and doing those types of things. But he came to accept it later on in life. But it was just always part of who I was.
Wow. I would say you were definitely called to this.
For sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, Todd, the newest film, The 21, is about the 21 Coptic Christian men who were killed by ISIS in Libya. It's hard to believe it's been since 2015. What
That's
led
right.
you to create a short film about this tragedy?
Well, my producers, Mandy Hart and Mark Rogers, had been wanting to create something about the 21, and they had approached me to make the film. And I had been a creative director at Cartoon Saloon in Ireland, and I had just recently left the studio to work on films, more personal films about faith. And so the timing, it just kind of worked out where they were looking for a director, I was looking for a film, and we just connected in that way. Yeah.
That's powerful. Well, it took you and your team 5 years to complete the film. I mean, during the process, you have shared in different interviews that you almost lost your vision. And I wanted to ask, what were some of the things you and your team experienced during the production of the film? And I mean, it seems like there was a lot of spiritual warfare. I mean, let's just be real.
There was. You know, we had COVID, of course. My personal life, my marriage fell apart. I had some problems with my eyes where I nearly lost my vision. There was just one thing after the other. And through it all, now I'm thankful. At the time, I was like, God, what are you doing? But looking back, I can see that God was using that to shape me, to shape the team. And all those experiences, all those having to adhere to God, having to adhere to trust in only Him, I think only added more layers to the film and just, again, to our lives personally.
Yeah.
It was an adventure in the best way possible, I think. Again, at the time, it wasn't so enjoyable, but now I can see why He put those things in front of us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Todd, you met with families of these martyrs. What was it like hearing their stories?
Life-changing. When we first started the film, we didn't actually have a story. And when we went to Egypt, we talked to the wives, to the widows, to the children, to the parents. And I asked them, I said, what would you like to put on screen? What would you like to see? And they said, our only message is we don't want ISIS, we don't want these terrorists to go to hell. We want them to know the love of Christ. We want them to know God. And that's the only answer to this whole situation that's been going on a millennium, right? This isn't a new thing. These martyrdoms and things have been happening for thousands of years. And they, in their heart, they just want these men to know Christ. And that moved me in such a powerful way. I knew what the story had to be. I knew what the message had to be. And just their testimony has changed my faith and how I interact with God, how I interact with my art and the purpose of my art. Yeah, just from that.
And if I've watched the film several times leading up to this interview, and I think the martyrs themselves had that same desire for their perpetrators, which was absolutely amazing. Obviously, I wanted to ask you, the film states that some of the members of ISIS who murdered the 21 men on the beach saw, and I'm quoting from the film, strange figures walking among the Christians.
Yeah.
Some of these figures were holding swords, others were riding horses. Again, that's the quote from the film. How were you even able to get that information? Did you and your team speak to any of those ISIS perpetrators, or did the families? How did you guys get that information?
Yeah, well, we did have interviews with some of the, I mean, that's how they found the bodies of the men. One of the drivers, he's in prison in Libya. The one in particular, he had contacted the family. He had been in contact with the church, Coptic church, and he explained these things. And of course, in that area, visions and dreams are very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And to him, when he saw these things, he realized that God was not on his side. He was doing these things in the name of God, right?
Mm.
But he realized that God was on the side of the martyrs.
Wow.
And at the end, after all, the other ISIS members said, well, he's just crazy. He has PTSD. He's lost his mind. But we believe that he came to faith. That's the church's stance on it anyway. I didn't talk to him directly. It was through the families and the church. Yeah.
That's powerful.
Todd, as the audience has seen, we've shown some clips. The film is an animated 2D film, but it does include live footage that was posted by ISIS of this tragedy. Why was it important to tell the story in this particular format to you?
Well, I think, first of all, it's a brutal story. It's a hard story, and to show that in live action would be very difficult. But I think through the Coptic Church, they have a long tradition of iconography, and they use iconography to reflect on things. So they'll see something in the church, and it's of course not a form of worship as in they're worshiping the image. It's to help them reflect on God and reflect on a moment. And that's what we wanted to do with the film as well, where you see the film, and at the end of the film, as in iconography, you can reflect on what you've seen. You can have a connection with God. You can have a connection to that other world. And so to a Coptic Christian, iconography is a very strong language, almost like a spoken language, but they do it through pictures, right? And that's part of their worship.
Yeah, I would just also say, like, as a fan of the film, I thought it was really, really powerful. Not just the animation, but incorporating some of that live footage. I mean, was just incredibly powerful. So I think you guys made a good decision on that front. I wanted to talk about the film was actually shortlisted by the Academy Awards, but unfortunately did not receive a nomination. But still, what was it like just receiving that honor of recognition of even being on the list to be considered to be nominated?
I mean, of course, it was a surprise. I think because of the subject matter, because it is so overtly Christian.
Yeah.
I didn't expect to get much recognition from the Academy, especially.
Mm-hmm.
Historically, they sort of shy away from those things.
Yeah.
But I think that the testimony of the men, the story is powerful. It's a true story. So I think there were a lot of elements there and there are a lot of Christians on the Academy board that have reached out to me and just talked about how they were moved by the film and by the story. So I think those messages, those things that are in the film have come through in some way, I hope. But it is a great honor, and I'm glad that it's getting attention, and I'm hoping that it'll bring more attention to not only the Coptic Christians, but as you know, there's Christians suffering all over the world right now for their faith. It's not an isolated incident, and it's growing. And so I'm hoping that this film can help provide some comfort and some hope, and maybe shine a light on some of the things that are happening throughout the world right now.
All right, Todd, you and many others put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this. So now people want to see it. How can viewers watch the film?
It'll be online. We have a website. It'll be on quite a few platforms, but the 21film.com. And that'll be on the 14th to the 16th. And that's the 10th anniversary of the deaths of the men. And then we're going to be in the film festivals, but after that, it'll be just wide online for anyone.
I love that. Well, Todd, I just want to say thank you so much again for being with us today, and thank you for answering the call to do this film. It is so incredibly powerful. I watched it several times. Every time I cry. It's just so incredibly powerful. So thank you so much to you and your team.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, everyone. Another reminder to view the film. Make sure you guys go to their website, the21film.com, between the dates of February 14th and the 16th. Highly, highly recommend. Any Christian needs to watch this film.